Welcome to the Career Connections podcast, where recruiting leader Stephanie Alston and operations leader Amie Thompson share real-world insights to help you navigate the job market, build confidence, and find the right career fit. Let's get into today's episode.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another amazing episode. We have been having an amazing time talking about all things as it relates to the job market. I am Stephanie Alston, and I am the CEO of BGG Enterprises, and we connect job seekers, executive job seekers of diverse backgrounds to companies who are seeking to hire executives for their companies. And I'm going to toss it over to Amie.
Yes, I am Amie Thompson. I go by the Introverted Entrepreneur. My company is Optiva Solutions Group, and I focus on fractional support at the executive level, heavily focused on operations. So if you are a small business and you are missing some pieces, I can usually come in and help you round out your executive team and round out your operations.
All right. Well, Amie, thank you again for joining me today. I'm so excited about today's conversation because I think it's something that many job seekers are currently dealing with. We're going to be talking about the emotional side of job hunting. And we were talking offline about this, but I want to share with our audience why this is deeply personal for me. In 2016, and some of you may have heard the story before, so just bear with me. But in 2016, I actually lost my full-time job in public relations for the last time. And I say for the last time because I've not had a full-time job since then. And during that time, I'll tell you, I went through quite an identity crisis. I didn't know who I was. In fact, right after I had been laid off of my job, I remember very clearly going to a digital summit in the area and having to introduce myself as a freelancer for the first time. I didn't feel confident. I felt afraid. And honestly, I felt less than because I felt like I was the only one in the room who did not have a big title or company behind her name. And I didn't know who I was. And so I want to ask you, Amie, as we talk about the emotional side of job hunting or even the emotional side of job loss, right? Why do you think that job searching feels so emotionally heavy for so many people?
Yeah, I think it's a great question, and I think it's good that you're able to share that story, but being on the other side of it now, right? So
Yeah.
you can kind of share the journey as well. But I think that, we spend a lot of time at work, right? Most of our lives are spent working, and in many cases, it's working on relying on someone else for our money, on someone else for our promotion or for our performance reviews and things like that. So our identity is a lot of times tied into what our title is or what our role is with an organization. And that's hard to come out of abruptly, right? Usually if you are let go or you're laid off, you do not get noticed for that, right? So it's one day you feel this way, the next day you're unemployed. So that's a lot, you know what I mean? And I think that for me, I mean, from my side of things, I had been a full-time entrepreneur for several years, and then I went back into corporate America. And I guess my situation was a little bit lucky in retrospect, but my first job back into corporate America, which you helped me get, I was laid off after 5 months. So I didn't even have a chance to really get into the business and get in the company. So my identity wasn't tied to that company that much. They had a, not so great couple of quarters. And I think it was like 40 people were laid off. So it was significant. And then it was, okay, do I keep doing entrepreneurship or do I try to find another corporate job? And I went the corporate route. And then a year and a half later, I'm unemployed again. But now it's just like, okay, what do I want to do? It's a cycle, right? It's a cycle.
Right.
And so for me, I took from it, and yeah, I can understand, those first few days or first few weeks when you go somewhere and someone's like, oh, how's your job? And then you have to explain to them that you don't have one. I honestly used it with humor. I'm not going to lie to you. I remember 2 or 3 days after I had stopped working, I had met my dad. He was coming back. He and his wife were coming back from out of town. And I was like, y'all want to go to lunch? He's like, sure. And so we go to lunch. He was like, well, what time do you have to be back at work? And I was like, I don't. Nope. I don't have a job anymore. He's like, so I kind of like used humor a little bit because I wasn't upset. Let's just say that.
Right.
I wasn't that upset. And I think that it can be. Now, I also don't have children. I also don't have, huge expenses. So from a
Right.
financial standpoint, it was not some huge burden. Yes, I want income coming in, you know what I mean? I want a paycheck or something, but it didn't it didn't create some horrible situation for me. So that is
Right.
different. Some people, if they lose their job, I mean, they don't know what to do. So I can appreciate that my situation is different. But what I will say is, in all things in life, you've probably heard this before, when one door closes, another one opens. It might not open immediately, right? So
Right.
you do have to be patient, but it's an opportunity to assess your life, assess the last job. What did I like about it? What did I not like about it? So that you don't rush into something else. And so for me, I started to look for full time work and I felt pretty confident like, this is the type of job I want. Here are the parts of the last job I liked. Here's what I don't want. And then it was just silence after silence or rejection after rejection for about I mean, not that long, but maybe like 2 months. And then I realized, looking back at the 2 months, Amy, you could have been going and getting clients. Like, why are
Yeah.
you wasting your time trying to find a job to make money? You could just go get clients and make money. And so that's where I am now, where it's like I'm just applying only to part-time work. And then I'm going to use the rest of the work the rest of the time, I should say, to just have clients, so
Yeah.
that's the focus. But it's an absolute, factual thing that mental health is significantly impacted with this kind of change in your life, because jobs and making money is such a significant time that we spend, and it's a significant portion of our lives. So anytime there's a shift in that, I mean, there would really be no way a person couldn't have some kind of anxiety about it or some kind of stress about it.
No, for sure. And I read this stat. It was a 2023 systematic review on mental health and unemployment that reported that for people experiencing long-term unemployment, which is greater than 12 months, the rate of diagnosed depression has been estimated to be as high as 50%. And so I do
Yeah.
know that it can take a huge toll on your mental health. But I think
Mm.
also something that we talked about offline is that sometimes you do have to understand that, and especially right now more than ever, right? It's not you, it's the market, right?
That's right.
And the moment you can resolve that within yourself, that it's not you and it's just the market, I think it quickly helps you reframe from thinking that there's something wrong with you versus
Yeah.
there are external things that are making it increasingly difficult for you to be able to find those open doors. I mean,
Yeah.
you just said something that I really liked, where you said that you saw your job loss after a while as an opportunity to assess your life. And I think that's really good,
Yeah.
Amy, because I'll say this, even whenever I experienced my last layoff, which prior to that I had been laid off 2 other times, but when I experienced my last layoff, I will say that at the time, if I'm being completely honest with myself, I wanted to quit the job anyway, but I did not, because I
Mhm.
was just like, no, I need the stability. I need to make sure that I hold on to this job and this title, because I've always been
Yeah.
told you need a full-time job, right? But what I quickly realized when I lost my job, because I do have a daughter, and at the time I was also married, I'm like, wait a second, I've got to figure out how I'm going to pay these
Yeah.
bills. And like,
Yeah.
being mad about not having the title is not going to pay my bills right now.
That's
And
right.
so I didn't think about it then until you just said it, but I literally took maybe a couple days to assess my life. And I quickly saw, hey, you need to get back to work ASAP.
Yep. Yep.
And I'll tell you, I actually, during that period, I applied and had about 50 job interviews. And that's not an
Oh,
exaggeration, like literally. I had
wow.
no issue getting them, but then it would always be like, oh, we loved you, but you don't live where we need you to live. Or, oh, we love
Mhm.
you, but we don't think we can pay you enough money, without even asking me what my salary range was.
Right.
So
Right.
things were not opening up for me. And I knew I could not afford to keep going on job interviews and not making money. And so
Right.
I did exactly what you said to do, right? I went out and I started getting clients. And so that's something that we really want to discuss in this episode is, how do you make that shift during such an
Yeah.
emotional time, right? So
Yeah.
I want to turn over back to you. What is the first thing someone should do who is experiencing this emotional strain of the labor market and the job search, but also who find themselves in a situation where, like, hey, you need to get back to work tomorrow to do something?
Yeah.
What's that
Yeah.
first step that's easy or that you perceive to be easy that we can encourage them to take right now?
Well, I would say there are two things that come to mind.
Okay.
One, and I would say they're both somewhat simple, but one is assess yourself. Like I mentioned, think about what you liked about the last job you had and what you didn't, and where you want to focus. Like all of us have some type of skill, right? It's not
Mhm.
like all of us are, without skills. So what's that thing that, people would always come to you for? Is it writing? Is it social media? Is it whatever? And then say to yourself, maybe I could do freelance work in these areas. But I think the second thing, and we've talked about this before, that people, we just don't do collectively is network. Think about
Yeah.
all of the people that you know and reach out to them and tell them what you want to do. And you have at least half of the people who are just anxious to help you. They're like, "Oh, okay, I didn't know this person was out of work. Let me see what I can do." You never know when they might have something. And they might say to you, "Hey, I don't have full time, but I could sure use 20 hours a week of somebody with your skill set." But we don't do it because like you had mentioned, you're a little embarrassed. You might not want to tell people that you're out of work, but
Right.
people are for the most part, if you have a good, friend network or peer network, most people want to help. And so I would say
Mhm.
that's the second thing is actually just reaching out and letting people know what you're looking to do. And you'll probably find some folks that can help you because maybe you don't replace your income. I'm going to say this is another point. For my last job, like a lot of the jobs I was applying to were of a similar salary, right? And so then
Right.
it's like, but Amy, how much do you really need? Because
Right.
zero is not really helpful right now. So
Right. Yeah.
then I started to rethink, yeah, there's the amount of money you want to make, but what do you need? Because maybe you can start with something freelance or part-time that gets you what you need until you find the money that you want to make. And that to me was a pretty big, it took a little bit of time for me to make that shift to say, I don't really need that. What I need is something stable, so even if it's halftime or whatever. But so that assessment, I think, is the first thing I'd recommend people do. Think about what you're capable of doing, what you need to make ends meet. And then the second thing is let other people know what you're looking for, and hopefully they can help you.
So what you just said in a very professional way is that closed mouths don't get fed.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because it hit me like I have the opportunity. I was telling you this a little bit before. I'm going to start on this part-time role next week. And it's like half of what I used to make, but it's still a lot more than most people make. Right. And so I
Right.
got to think about it that way, not what I used to. I don't have that job anymore. So guess what?
Right.
Move on. Right. So if there's an opportunity, something I know I'll be good at, something that they're like, can you start on Monday? It's
Right.
something that's
Yeah.
going to be steady as I go through the end of the year. Heck yeah, I'm taking that. Whereas a month ago, I would have been like, oh, that's not enough money. It's like kind
Mhm.
of bougie about it. So it's like assessing what you need in this moment. I'm not signing up for full time. I'm not making a commitment that I'm going to be there forever, but it's going to be a significant help to me financially as I get into the new year while this market is not that great.
Yeah, no, I agree. And, even talking about how you reframe how you even look at money, right? And being honest with yourself, like, do I need this
That's
much
right.
money? And that's not saying that you can't dream big and that you cannot desire more, but it's also like when you are trying to get to a place of stability, you just have to look at what's realistic, right?
That's right.
And it's so crazy because I think sometimes, I mean, she's probably gonna kill me for bringing this up, but my best friend said to me a couple months ago, she said, I think I've become institutionalized by corporate America. And I was like, well, what do you mean by that? And she was just like, I feel like if I don't see the number that I want, I can't take the job.
Mm,
Whereas, she was offered a contract and the contract to her was like, wait, this money doesn't add up. But I'm like, no, this is actually more money if you think about this logically. Like, they're not paying your benefits, so they're giving you
right.
more money and you're making
Right.
more money at a quicker amount of time. Like I'll even give another example. I was talking to a freelancer who was trying to figure out how to set their rate, and they said to me, well, I can't work for anything less than $100,000. I said, on a contract, on a 6-month contract, $100,000. And she was like, well, that's what I made in my last job. I'm like, no, no, no. We're talking about 6 months. So even if
Right.
you're only able to make, I don't know, I'm going to throw out a number, $30,000 for 6 months. When is the last time you made $30,000 in 6 months on one contract?
Right.
Probably
Right.
never, right? Like, and so
Especially
I
if
told
it's
you
not
have to
full
think of these things.
time.
Right, exactly. I said, and so then you can also go out and seek other opportunities
Right.
outside of that. And she was
Right.
just like, wait, I never thought of it that way. I'm like, yes, you
Yeah.
got to rethink, you have to reframe how you look at money, because
That's right.
there's so many opportunities that I think people turn down because they don't like the word contractor. They don't like the word
Yeah.
freelance. It's a
Yeah.
scary word, but I'm telling you, like, when you're in a situation, once you've assessed, like Amie said, and you've identified what areas people often come to you for, and you actually start tapping into those skills and gifts, I think most people will be surprised at how much money they've been missing out on just because they didn't open up their mouths and say, hey, I can do this. And
Yeah.
so um
Mm.
I think that is something I want to drill in.
Yeah, and the other thing too is you don't think about how much you might work at your full-time job. And when you're a contractor, you're actually, if they say 20 hours, that's what you're working. If they
Okay.
say 40, that's what you're working. You have a full-time job, you might be doing 60, 70 hours, and they're not paying you over. If you're a senior
Yeah.
person, you're not getting paid overtime. And so, like you said, you could actually make more money being a freelancer than being an employee. But your friend is right. You become brainwashed a little bit into the routine of being a corporate employee. And then you start to overlook some of the really positive things that could come from being a freelancer or being, a full-time entrepreneur. So yeah, it's a lot to lot to think about and assess for sure.
It is. So let me ask you this, Amie, because earlier on in the conversation, you mentioned, having a good network around you. How
Yeah.
important do you think having a good network is to you, especially when you get stuck in your own head during this journey?
Yeah, network is huge. And I certainly am an introvert. I'll say that anytime I meet somebody. So I am not one that's always going out and meeting people and going to different events and things like that. But I will tell you that I was mentioning to you a little bit earlier, one of the services that I'm looking to offer and something I'm trying to do. And I just took a piece of paper out and started writing down names. Who could I tell about this? And I had almost 100 names. And these are not just looking through LinkedIn, random people that maybe I knew once upon a time. These are legit people that I have a relationship with, I used to work with, or we've done business together. When you really sit down and list out people, you'll probably find out that your core network, obviously you have more people following you on social, but the people that if you emailed them, they would respond back. The number is probably bigger than you think. And so if it's not, then you need to work on that. And one of the things that has always been suggested to me when you meet someone new or somebody in your network, ask them, who are 3 or 4 people that you could introduce me to? Who are 3 or 4 people in your network that you think I should meet? Based on what I just told you, the business I'm starting or the job that I'm looking for, who are a couple of people you think I should meet? And most of the time, people be like, oh, you need to meet Stephanie. You need to meet so and so.
Right.
Most of the time, people are excited to be that connector. But the network is huge because people help people, people buy from people hire people that they know. I mean, it's all about people. And so you've got to have a network. You've got to nurture your network. And the people in your network need to know what's going on with you so they can help you.
Yeah. So would you say that the same is true even on the personal side of job search? So I know you talked about the importance of your professional network helping you get a job, but what about when you're feeling down in the dumps about everything? Do you think the
Yeah,
same is true?
I think the same is true. I think, I remember when you and I used to meet frequently, I think it was around COVID time, because
Yeah.
it's like, let's just make sure we're good. Let's just
Yeah.
make sure we check in with each other. And I had a couple people that I did that with. We didn't have any agenda or any topic, but it's like, this is a crazy time in the world. Let's just make sure everybody's good. And you should have people like that you're checking in with. And then hopefully you have some people who are checking in with you so that when you are feeling a little bit down, somebody's reaching out and just being like, hey, is everything good? Do you need to talk? Stuff like that. But you kind of get what you give, right? So when
Right.
you're
Yeah.
doing that for other people just throughout the year, then when it's your turn and you're the one that needs the help and the support, hopefully people are reaching back and doing the same for you. So personally and mentally is equally as important to have that strong network as it is like professionally.
Yeah, I love that. So, Amy, I want to make sure that we're also providing, continuing to provide practical things for those who are dealing with this. So, for you, what is one simple routine job seekers can implement this week to help them feel maybe more in control of their search? I know you mentioned now
Yeah.
that you're only applying for part time. Um,
Yeah.
maybe it's something as small as that, but what kind of advice do you have around that? Like a routine, one routine.
I would say for me, I think quality over quantity is
Mm,
something I would suggest in the job search, because if you apply, I've been on calls with people and they're like, I've applied to like 200 jobs.
yeah.
That could be 200 rejections. Like, you're actually piling it on yourself, but you should know that from a numbers perspective, you're probably not qualified for all of those 200 jobs. Like, they're probably not in the right location. So I would encourage people to be more, oh gosh, what's the word I'm looking for? Not specific, but like be more
Intentional.
thank you. Yeah, intentional about the jobs you're applying to. Because even if you still don't get a lot of interviews, one interview out of 20 applications is way better than one interview out of 200. Because it
Mm,
could take a toll on you mentally, because then you're thinking about, I got rejected 199 times, but really you
right.
were applying for stuff that was probably a long shot anyway. So I would
Yeah.
I would say one thing that I never changed this. I never could understand when people were saying, I applied to like 200 jobs and I've only gotten one interview. It's like, to me, that also says you're not taking time to research the company. You're not taking time to customize your resume. Because if you have time to do that many, that means you're not really, like you said, being intentional about it. And I think if a human ever does see your resume or your
Right.
application, they can probably tell that, because it's not specific to the company. I'm going to say this too. One thing I did, and this is something also actionable. So I had a call a couple of weeks ago with a woman from the unemployment office. So,
Mhm.
and I was like so irritated. Like, what are they going to tell me? However, she was pretty good. So
Oh,
she
wow.
went through my resume and like just shared, the NC work site, which I'm already familiar with and everything.
Right.
But she went through my resume, which was 3 pages. And she was like, yeah. She was like, this needs to be shorter. And so I'm thinking to myself, like, I got an attitude. I'm like, I mean, I have a lot of work experience. I need to tell everybody.
Right.
And when she started talking about it, she was like, look, she's like, people are looking through a lot of resumes right now. Nobody's going to be looking. And this is so funny, because it's the same advice I would give somebody else. Why do you have a 3-page resume? I'm not looking at that.
Right.
So she was like, get it down to 2 if you can. And when I was trying to do that, it's really interesting. But when I was applying for a certain job, it was an HR type job. So I'm like, if I'm the hiring manager, I actually don't care what this person has done outside of HR. I'm hiring for HR. And so
True.
I started to take out, not necessarily take out all the jobs, but I took out bullets of things that I've done that didn't really relate to the people aspect or the HR aspect. And let me tell you, the last few jobs I've applied to, my resume has been 1 page. It
Wow.
doesn't, it can be a psychological challenge, because you're like, but this doesn't represent everything I've done. No,
Correct.
it
Yes.
doesn't. But it represents what is specific to that job and to that person. And I will say, I had an interview earlier this week with my 1 page resume that I sent to somebody, and I had an interview this week. And so you do have to, like, you're asking for actionable things somebody can do this week. Get out of your own head and start thinking like the hiring person. They don't care that you've done 20 years of whatever if it's not related to that specific job that they're looking to fill. They just don't care. And it's a waste of paper and it's a waste of space. And so get your resume as tight as it can be and focus your resume for the specific job. So if they're looking for a salesperson, then make it sales related. If you did 3 other jobs at a VP level, but it wasn't sales, no one cares. Make it one line at the bottom that says other experience or something like that. But I would say and I talked to her, she called me the other day and I was like, I just want you to know that your advice on my resume was very helpful. She was like, oh, good.
Oh, wow.
getting getting a better, it also helps you when you're trying to tell your story, because we want to tell everything about ourselves. We want to
Yeah.
tell people how great we are, but no one cares. They care about
Yeah.
what is important to them. So make sure your resume represents what's important for that specific job, your elevator pitch, what's important for that person. That I say was a big learning for me, or a reminder, because I know this stuff, like a reminder over the past couple of weeks. So that action that I would give people for right now is clean up your resume and then apply very intentionally to jobs, so that the rejection you get is going to be less than when you're applying to a ton of jobs. And that should help mentally.
Okay, we're gonna have to do a whole episode about this because I actually have thoughts about having longer resumes only because just hear me out, okay? We're
Yeah.
not gonna take a look. The average person is not reading a paper resume. They're scrolling. So like you don't know how many pages it is. And like for me, so what does that mean digitally, right? Does that mean make
I
it
see
one
what you're saying.
scroll? You know what I'm saying? Like I understand what she means in one page because yes, it
Yeah.
does help. But when you know that, I mean, to be quite honest, you don't really have lots of people, and I'm not trying to do age discrimination, but you don't see many people in their 60s, right, who are working in HR. It's well, not even HR, recruiting, right? Recruiting typically
Yeah.
is considered to be a lower level job. And
Yep.
so when you think about it, the age of the average recruiter, they're used to just scrolling anyway. So they have the habit in their mind of just,
Yeah.
if a real human is looking at it. And so
Yeah.
I'm just kind of curious, like, what does one page look like digitally?
I think it's the same because
Okay.
what you want, this is my opinion, what you want is for them to not scan it. You want them to read it. So if you
Oh,
only
that's
have one
fair.
page
That's
and they're
good.
not
Okay.
scrolling, they may actually read your full bullet points
True.
or read your
That's true.
summary. They're scanning it because there's so much information and they only have this much time for each resume. That's my perspective. So I think shorter is
That's
better.
good.
Maybe not one page, but definitely not three.
That
Definitely
is
not
I mean,
three.
that's amazing advice though, because you're right. You don't, that's the objective. Okay, guys.
Right.
So that is number one from today's episode. Make
Yeah.
sure that someone actually reads your resume and
Yeah.
don't
Yeah.
force them to scan it. That is really good. I hadn't thought about it in
Yeah.
that way, but no, you're absolutely right. Okay. So when we talk about not putting everything on your resume, I think that's good. So
Yeah.
tell me this, Amy, what activities do you think can help job seekers reconnect who they are outside of work when they do find themselves always being consumed with applying for jobs?
Yeah. So I'll tell you one thing that I still do frequently, but I started to do once I stopped working, go outside and take a walk. And that
Yeah.
sounds so basic, but I was thoroughly enjoying my little 30-minute walks outside. I visited like 8 new parks in the
Oh
area
wow.
and
Wow.
just try to clear my mind a little because it can get overwhelming when you're just looking for jobs, and then working on the resume. So I would usually go at like lunchtime and just take a break. So find something that you enjoy doing, find something that brings you a little peace. I found myself not usually when I'm outside walking, I listen to music. I had no music, just like whatever was happening around me, I just kind of absorbed that. And that was huge from a just a peacefulness and like a stress reducer because something about, everybody's different, but for me being out in nature, it always is calming for me. And then you're reminded that, this is not going to last forever. Like this little drought that I'm going through, it's just temporary. And it was helpful for me. So it's like find something that you enjoy doing. If it's a certain show you like watching or whatever, a certain movie you want to go see, just try to find something. Oops, sorry.
It's
Try to
okay.
find something for yourself that can take your mind off of the scrolling on LinkedIn or Indeed or whatever. That would be what I would suggest.
Oh no, I love that. And it's so funny. I don't know if you've heard people say this before, but my doctor actually says it a lot too. And like some people need to go outside and touch grass. Have you heard that before?
Yes. Yes, yes, yes.
And so that's like literally it's like go outside and be one with nature because apparently there's like science that says like just going outside and going for a walk, it helps regulate your system, your nervous system.
Maybe so. Yeah. But it's because
I
you can
love
get
that.
into a rut. And then us you're inside, right? You're inside, you're not
Right.
getting sunlight or whatever because and you wanna be productive and all that stuff, but yeah, I can definitely see and I know it happened for me where it's just like, I cannot look at another job post. Like, you just get so frustrated. And so, yeah, being outside for a little bit was really helpful.
I love that. So we are going to wrap up today's episode, but before we do, I have one final question for you.
Mhm.
What is one win that job seekers can celebrate every day, no matter what, to make sure that they remain hopeful in this world right now?
That's interesting. Um, I would say I would say if you set a goal for each day and then you meet that goal, then celebrate that win. And so I would encourage people, so you're like, I'm going to apply for X number of jobs today,
Oh, I love
but
that.
make it things you can control, right? Don't set your wins against I got an interview or something. You can't control that. So make it about the things that you can control. So you researched 3 new companies. You reached out to 5 of your people in your network on LinkedIn. Like set goals each morning, and then at the end of the day, if you reach those, then celebrate that. Because yeah, you need mental wins so that you can stay motivated and stay confident, but don't tie
Yeah,
your wins to something that, somebody else is controlling and not you. That's what I would suggest.
I love that. All right, I had to write that down. That's good. Set one goal and
Yeah.
celebrate it because I think now, especially because going into a new rigor, everyone always talks about vision boards, and I actually love vision boards, but
Mhm.
sometimes looking at the big goals all the time, don't hit
Yes.
those big
Yes.
goals right away. It can make you feel like you're a failure. But
That's
you're
right.
right. If you set one goal every day and celebrate, I mean, that could work wonders
Yeah.
alone for your mental health. So
Yeah.
I absolutely love that. Well, Amie, thank you again for another amazing episode, and thank you all for
Yeah.
joining us. If you enjoyed this episode, please like, share, or subscribe. But until next time, we will see you next. Bye.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Thanks for tuning in to the Career Connections podcast with Stephanie and Amie. Connect with us on LinkedIn for more career tips, resources, and conversations that help you grow with confidence.